Game theory and fair division of blackjack. So why this interests me is I live in Allentown, New Jersey, and Atlantic City is an hour from my house. My family likes to go there for the weekend and go to the casinos, and if the opportunity ever presents itself where I were to go, I would rather a positive increase in my bank account rather than a negative deficit. Some of my favorite movies, The Hangover, Stacy's Nights, The Card Counter, and 21 is one that we're going to talk about a little bit more in this presentation. All have card counting in their movies, and it's honestly something that has always generated curiosity within myself, where I'm always drawn to the subject. So here's a quick tutorial on how to play blackjack if you don't understand.
The goal of blackjack is to have a hand that totals higher than the dealer's, but doesn't total to higher than 21. If your hand totals higher than 21, it is called a bust, which means you are out of the game. The game starts with everyone besides the dealer placing a bet. Then, the dealer deals one card face up to each player and one card face up to themselves. Everyone is dealt one more face-up card besides the dealer, whose second card is dealt face down. Cards 2 through 10 are scored using their face value, and jacks, queens, and kings are all equal to 10. Aces can be either 1 or 11, and you can choose their value throughout the round if you have one. If your two face-up cards total 21, you automatically win 1.5 times your bet from the dealer, and you're done for that round. Otherwise, the dealer asks whether you want another card from the top of the deck. If you do, say hit, or motion toward yourself with your hand. There's no limit to how many cards you can ask for, but once your hand totals higher than 21, you bust and the dealer gets your bet. If you don't want any more cards, say stay, or wave your hand over the table. Once the dealer has gone around the table, they flip up their face-down card. If it is 16 or under, they have to take another card. If it's 17 or higher, they have to stay with their hand. If the dealer busts, every player that's still in that round wins twice their bet. However, if the dealer doesn't bust, only the player whose hands are higher than the dealer's win twice their bet. Everyone else loses their initial bet. Once the round is over, all of the players place a new bet, and another round begins.
Okay, so the math behind playing cards, there's 52 total in a deck, discluding the joker cards. In blackjack, the joker cards are not used unless it's for a certain type. All cards are at a face value of 2 through 10, so each card, if you pull a 3 card, that would be a value of 3. If you pull a 4 card, it's going to be a value of 4. Face cards have a value of 10, and an ace is an 11, unless the player exceeds 21, that has a value of 1. So if the player pulls a 7 and a 3, which makes it 10, the ace being 11 would make it 21. Bill Kaplan was very influential in the theory of counting cards. He was actually a World Series champion in 2005, and he became so recognizable that even with his disguises, where he would dress in wigs and dresses and even have fake mustaches, he had to leave the scene and went into a new business. So using the high-low strategy, the card counter only has to keep a simple mental tally of 3 groups of cards. Every time he or she sees a high number card played on the table, the 10s and all the face cards, the counter subtracts 1 from his or her tally. For every low number card, the 2s or 6s, the counter adds 1 to his or her tally. The middle cards, the 7, 8s, and 9s, are simply ignored. The MIT Blackjack team was a group of students collaborating in a scheme against casinos worldwide. So Bill Kaplan began this association, and he organized it to become a group study teaching other MIT students on how to count cards and apply this in the real world. So card counting instruction was given, and students would apply it and earn massive winnings. The total winnings of this blackjack team was $10 million. So some even played as spotters, counting the cards for a player and signaling when to place large bets. This is what Kaplan began doing as his popularity grew so large within casinos, as he became more recognizable, and he had to leave the scene after becoming a spotter as he got caught. So game theory and fair division in this theory. Within fair division, we want a fair share between both players. This is impossible between the dealer and the player. So the relationship between the dealer and the player makes this insufficient, but applying the value of the cards and the preferability between competitors is applicable in this theory. Each player and the dealer have a value between these cards. Like we said before, that once you break 21, you bust in the play. Therefore, a certain number within the cards is more valuable to other players than to some. So but in game theory, competitive situations create a need for strategy. Understanding the probability between a fair share within the cards at the initial break of the game, and then applying game theory to understand the chance of the draw. A probability theory is crucial in understanding the outcome of the game. So applying fair division and understanding the preferability of the card, as well as having a strategy within this game and the probability of pulling this card. So this brings me to assigning a value to every card. 10 through ace would be a negative value, 7 through 9 has no value, and 2 through 6 is a positive. So keeping a running count based on the cards dealt. Use this to calculate the true count. Base your bets on the true count. Change your bets as the true count rises. The true count equals running count over the deck's remaining. So in each card's chance, face cards and high number cards have a 64% chance of being pulled. This is due to there being a 36 out of 56 chance. 2 through 6 is a 20 out of 56 chance, making a 35% chance of pulling the card. And 7 through 9 is a 12 out of 56 chance, making a 21% chance of pulling this card. 4 out of each card, 4 aces, 4 kings, 4 queens, 4 suits, and without a replacement means the card is not being put back into the deck. So when you are counting these cards, when the dealer's deck of cards, there is no replacement back into this card, meaning that once the card is dealt, it is gone. So counting the cards within these deficits of positive or negative will be able to follow the final outcome of the game.
So when I'm card counting, I'm playing perfect basic strategy, keeping accurate track of the running count, converting that running count into a true count based on the number of decks remaining, and then sizing my bet proportionally based on the true count. What makes blackjack different from all the other games is that it's based on dependent events, which means that the past actually affects the probability of what's going to happen next. Now, the card counting system that I recommend is called the high-low count system. We have the high cards, 10, jack, queen, king, and ace, and these are good for the player. But they have a count value of -1 each because as high cards are depleted from the game, player advantage goes down. The next group of cards is the low cards, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And these cards are good for the dealer. So naturally, these are going to each have a count value of +1, because as these low cards are depleted, that means there's fewer of them that can hurt you in future play. And the third and final group of cards is the neutral cards, 7, 8, and 9, and these cards don't have a count value at all because they don't favor the house or the player. If we were to look at these 3 cards, the count of these is -1. Because we have 2 high cards and 1 low card. For these 3 cards, they have a count of +2. So we have 2 low cards, which each have a count value +1, and the neutral card has no count value. Now what most people would do once they learn the high-low count values is to adjust the count one by one. So for example, they would think -1 + 1 -1 + 1 -1 -1 -1 + 1. And so the net of all that work would be -2. So that required adjusting the count 8 times.